And this is the second of our lessons on the book of Daniel. And in this lesson, we're going to start into the book. We're going to start in Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. Now, let me remind you, the theme of Daniel is God rules the nations. And the message of Daniel is how to stay righteous under any circumstance, 2 messages, and that God is in control. Now, remember, the way it's going to work is we're going to first study Daniel 1 and 3 through 6. These are the practical stories where you see these 4 men, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the question is, are they going to be able to stay faithful under any circumstances? All right, and then we'll do the visions of the future. That's kind of the harder part of the book to get. That'll be starting in probably about the 4th lesson, maybe lessons 4, 5, and 6. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, let's start with Daniel chapter 1. Actually, probably I should turn to Daniel chapter 1. You can either listen along, or probably even better would be to turn to this in your Bible. Or turn on your cell phone. Here we go. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in the treasure house of his God. Now, first thing to notice this right away is that the writer of Daniel himself, says that God did this. Now, we asked the question earlier in the first lesson, do you believe that God is in control? Now, that's a really good question. But let me ask a really easy question. When are you more likely to doubt that God's in control? When things go great or when things go bad? Obviously, when things go bad, that's when we struggle. And the bottom line is, this is not exactly great for the Jews. They're being judged. Now, the background, there's a lot of background here. The Jews have been behaving very badly. If you don't understand that, maybe read the book of Ezekiel, kind of get it. But anyway, we don't have time for that. But the bottom line is, Daniel sees good and bad all the same, because like it says here, and God did this. God allowed this to happen. So the year 605 BC, like we said earlier, so it's not looking good. From the outward perspective, it looks like God is out of control. But we're going to see in this chapter that God is really in control. So what Nebuchadnezzar does is he brings Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, that was their Jewish names, he brings them to Babylon, and his goal is to make them into good Babylonians. What he wants is basically saying to the leaders in Judah, I have your children, all right? Pay the tribute, either that or, hey, I've got your kids. You can guess what he's threatening to do there. But what he wants to do in the meantime to these teenagers, he wants them to make him his ministers. He wants to make them good Babylonians. So what he does is he changes Daniel's name to Belshazzar. Now think about it. Bel is one of the gods of the Babylonians. Imagine a Jewish boy being named after a Babylonian god for the rest of his life. And by the way, he changes Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, all of whom have essentially the name of God in their names, and he gives them pagan names as well. And what he says is, I've got a great job for you. I've got a great opportunity. You're going to serve me. Seems like a good idea. You know, for us as Christians, you know, sometimes we're given a great opportunity. We think, I got to go for it. But here's the problem. See, in order to do this, they had to do some training. And the training involved eating some food that probably is not kosher. So let's read about that. Let's skip down to verse 6. Verse 3 through 5, he's describing kind of the background, what Nebuchadnezzar is trying to do, which is to train them for his service so that basically he can use them as a wedge, essentially, against their parents. Anyway, among those who were chosen were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. That's Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach, and Mishael were Meshach, Azariah, and Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. But the official, let me stop right there. Two things. Number one, Daniel says, you can give me all the money you want, you can give me whatever. I'm telling you, I'm not going to compromise my conviction. The other thing it says here is that God caused the official to show favor. Now, the basic message of this particular chapter is this. On the job, are you going to put God first? Think about it. Teenagers, 14, 15, 16 years old. What do they have? They don't have a Bible. They don't have a church. They don't have a discipler. Who's going to know? And besides, I mean, think of the opportunity. You know, if I was one of them, I would have said, a little compromise, no big deal, because think of the opportunity. Surely God would kind of understand if I compromise convictions a little bit, because I'm going to get in a position I can do great things. Well, how about you? Man, I've got this promotion. Yeah, I'm going to miss the meetings of the church, but think about the opportunity. Here's another situation. You're on the job. Now, your boss doesn't ask you to lie. Your boss just asks you to, kind of stretch the truth a little bit or purposely withhold important information. Going to do that or not? Now, here's what Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said, basically, test me in this. I love this. They said, test us in this. Give us vegetables. And I'm telling you, God is going to come through for us. Give us vegetables, and then see how it goes. Basically, this is the kind of thing I think we ought to be doing. Here's the deal. At some point in your life, be it next month, next year, 10 years from now, you're going to be in a situation at work where you're going to be called on by your boss or coworker to do something illegal, to take a promotion that is bad for you spiritually. The question is this: what are you going to do? Basically, Daniel, Shadrach, and Meshach, and Abednego, what they said is, you can take that job and you know what, right? Basically, they said, we'll never compromise our convictions. Think about it. If you compromise your convictions, what's that going to say to you, to God, and your coworkers? How are you going to share your faith? And I really believe this. If you say, look, I'm a Christian. I don't deceive people. I'm not going to do it. You can fire me. Or you could say, maybe what you could do is, why don't you let me try this. Let's see if it works. Now here's the question, is it going to work or not? I don't know. Now, as you know, this story has a happy ending, right? The happy ending is they ate the vegetables. It comes back. In fact, let me go ahead and read it. Then Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over them, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. Well, yeah. If you eat rich royal food versus vegetables, I could see why they would look better. Now, this is not an advertisement that Christians ought to be vegetarians. Something to think about, though. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set up by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them. He found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in the whole kingdom. Now, this story has a happy ending, as you know, but what if it didn't have a happy ending? Would that change what they should have done? I say no. Let's say that you take a stand for God. You say, no, I will not attend those meetings. No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept that promotion. What's the worst they can do to you? Fire you. Now, I understand that doesn't feel like a good thing, but wouldn't that be awesome? Imagine 10 years from now you could say, yeah, I was in that situation and I did this and they fired me. Do you believe God is in control? Do you believe God could give you a better job if he wanted to? Do you really believe it? Now, will he? I don't know. What if he does something different? The question is not what God's going to do. The question is whether you believe God rules the nation and God's in control. These teenagers believed it, and they acted on that belief. They acted on that belief. Now, as a result, God gave them great gifts. They did awesome things. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe it's not going to happen. I remember one time, this is a few years ago, I was in graduate school, so it was a long time ago actually. I went into my professor and he pulled me aside, my advisor. He said, John, you know what? It seems to me that this degree is not your first priority, that you have a higher priority. Now inside I'm thinking, so glad he noticed, you know what I'm saying? But he said, maybe you need to consider doing something different. Yeah, that was a little bit intimidating. My boss was actually not trying to intimidate me, he's just being honest with me. You know what? That's the way it should be. Our boss should notice that we have a higher authority. Now, I believe I was one of the hardest workers. However, they had meetings on Wednesday night I didn't go to. Instead, what I do is I come in at 12 o'clock at night and work till 5 in the morning. It took me a little bit longer to graduate, but you know what? In that case, for myself, I decided I'm not going to compromise my Christian convictions in order to impress my boss, in order to further my career. So here's the question I believe God has given to you. What are you going to do? Think of persecution on the job. Think of being asked to do something illegal as an opportunity to shine, to be like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to act, not just say, as if you believe that God rules the nations. Okay.